Hello, welcome back. I hope you are all doing well. I tried to film this recording on the topic of surrender a couple of weeks ago, and it just did not work out. It was going so smoothly. I felt like my message was just exactly what I wanted to share, and yet my computer just froze and was like, "Nope, we're not doing this. This is not what you are meant to share right now." So I surrendered to, I don't know if Mercury was quite in retrograde yet, but I was just like, you know what? It's not meant to be. I'm going to let it go, move on to the next thing, and come back to it. And here I am now, super excited to share this very simple and quite different message around surrender because I have had a new level of insight around this. So clearly, it wasn't meant to be before. And I hope that this resonates in a way that is really helpful and supportive of you right now. And I really felt called to share this message because, for one, I think we have all just really been in the thick of life right now, just with the transits coming out of eclipse season, this really intense full moon last week, just all of the things that are going on. It is whirling up so much within each and every one of us, and that looks different for each and every one of us. We are feeling it at the collective level, which then makes those of us who feel things very deeply and very strongly feel those things even more, because when that energy and that kind of collective experience is happening and it's also happening within ourselves, it's like we're getting hit from all the angles. And again, for me, it has really just been like I have just been getting washed around, kind of like in the washing machine, waves crashing on the shore, just, I've just been trying to roll with it. And I get better and better at rolling with it the more I practice the art of surrender, the idea of surrender. The more I just try to surrender, right? And it doesn't mean that those things still don't come up because, as we all know, healing, and I even want to get really careful with my words around healing. I really think that, like, our own growth and expansion and our just journey in general, it is a spiral, and things come back around, and they come back around to show you something in a new way. And I no longer even really want to, like, kind of buy into even this idea of healing. While yes, I recognize there are intense things that we need to heal from. And I'm going to do another video on this. And I don't want to dive into it so much right now. But I also think that the talk about healing and the constant need to quote unquote heal can also keep us really, like, stuck in a lot of ways. And I believe that right now this time is not just about healing, it's about remembering. It's about remembering who you are, remembering who we are as a collective, remembering exactly what we are capable of. And the only thing that we need to heal from is the fact that we forgot that, right? Everything else is exactly as it's meant to be. Everything else is perfect. Everything else is simply showing us that we are ready to remember. And I think that all of us are even feeling this energy as more and more people wake up, as more and more people seem like, kind of from the outside, like people that, weren't even kind of into a more like holistic way of living or looking to astrology or kind of tapping into their own unique and personal gifts, are like opening up to the idea that there is so much more to this life. And it's so simple, right? Like, we're not quite there yet. I know I'm not quite there yet, but it's like I keep getting these glimmers of, like, oh my gosh, it's just so easy. Like, how did I not see it before, right? And I've done so much freaking work, right? But that's really how I feel right now. And I hope you're feeling some of that. with this recent full moon in Taurus that we had last week. I know for me personally, I just felt like this huge wave of release, and just it wasn't even like something healed inside. It wasn't like I was conscious of it, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, there's that thing, right? That thing in me that needed to heal. It wasn't that at all, because it was like I didn't even know those things. It was just like suddenly my levels of awareness, my levels of understanding, my levels of knowing, my levels of embodiment, my levels of just feeling lighter, right? And again, just like this remembering that there is something so much more, and it doesn't exist outside of ourselves, but it actually lives within us, and it is us. And I think that we're all starting to feel that. And it's just like a beautiful thing to witness. And I'm just so grateful to get to be alive at this time and at this like really strong turning point in history. And yeah, I feel like I'm even getting emotional talking about that. So again, it's so beautiful. And really what I wanted to share around this message of surrender is we've been overcomplicating it. And it's funny, like I've been on this journey of talking about manifestation and talking about healing and talking about a spiritual journey and blah blah blah, all the things. And it's so fascinating to me because I also get to see like like my own beliefs, and again kind of embodiment and understanding of these principles that I practice in my own life. And I'm human and I'm not perfect, and I'm growing and trying and expanding and failing and doing it all over again 100 times a day all the time. But it's like I'm seeing things in such a different way, if that makes sense. I mean, again, even as I share this, it doesn't fully make sense to me, and it doesn't have to fully make sense to me. I'm just kind of sharing what I'm experiencing and going through and how I'm seeing things, in hopes that like it sparks a chord within you that invites you to remember something more within yourself. And that's really it. And what I have realized, especially over these last couple of weeks, is just how supported you are, just how supported we all are. Life is always presenting moments, opportunities, insights to wake you up, to show you something else, to get you to remember the truth of who you are. And that is the purpose. Because now that you remember who you are, even if you're not all the way there yet, but there's like that glimmer, there's that nudge in you, and you're waking up to something bigger, to something more meaningful and purposeful. The fact that you feel that means that you are reconnecting to the spark that lives within you, the spark that has always been there, the spark of life and creation itself inside of you. No more searching outside of you, right? No more needing to do something more. No more needing to change to be something quote unquote better. It's only about remembering. And then from that, everything gets easier. So I'm constantly seeing videos about the power of surrender and how to just let go, and this language. And again, I've used this language too, and I've talked about surrender and letting go in this way. But the huge epiphany that I had this morning is we're not really talking enough about how to do that, and how to do that in a way that really, I don't even want to say easy, because I still fully recognize this is not always easy. Okay. Especially when we're talking about things that are unconscious to ourselves, right? Like it's not always easy, but it gets to be easier, and we don't have to try so hard. We don't have to resist so much. We don't have to constantly look for what's quote unquote wrong with us and what we need to heal, because I think that language is actually really dangerous sometimes. And again, this conversation is hopefully a way to show you what is simultaneously the only way to go through life that both feels easier and like brings in the magic, right? So it's like it's easy and you're leveling up like simultaneously, right? There gets to be so much ease here. And let's break it down a little bit because it's really simple. And I think I had this experience almost like in a funnel or a vacuum to where I was really able to see this over the last couple of weeks where I just kept getting hit with triggers. And in the past, I would have like been triggered by something and then sat with it for so freaking long and gone on this deep dive and wanted to get to the root of the trigger and wanted to work it out and heal it and all of these things, right? And again, I if that is where you are in the season of life, there is no judgment on my part. We are all exactly where we are meant to be. You are in the exact season. You are having the exact levels of awareness you're meant to have right now. You are, again, just going through exactly what you were meant to go through right now in the exact way you're meant to go through it. Okay. However, this conversation hopefully allows something new, right? I don't remember who said it, but it's the idea that the problem cannot be solved from like the same state that the problem is created in, right? Does you get what that means? So it's like when you're like just you're stuck in it and you're like in the thick of it. Sometimes I like to use like you lost your keys analogy, right? You're frustrated and you're like stomping around your house and trying to find your keys and it's like really irritating and you're late and you're frustrated and you can't find your keys in that state of mind, in that state of being. But the second you just take a breath, allow yourself to relax, allow yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to find them, right? Like it's almost like your keys just appear. They're in your purse, they're in your pocket, they're right in front of you. It's the same thing with life. So number one, surrendering is about stepping back a little bit, right? It's not it's learning how to get out of the trigger, out of the mental noise, out of the problem, right? So instead of being in this state of like, oh my gosh, this is wrong, I'm triggered by this person, you know, made me angry, made me upset, right? When you're in that energy, you're in the trigger, okay? So the key is simply to come out of that. First and foremost, you cannot see what you need to see. You cannot have the awareness you need to have when you're allowing your mental and emotional energy to be absorbed by the situation. First and foremost, it's just not possible. So, how do we do that, right? Breathe, move your body, go on a walk, dance around your house, right? You need to physically move energy. Okay. So if you are feeling something negative, something frustrating, something that's making you angry, literally allowing yourself the space to just move that in whichever way feels good, right? Allows spaciousness for the energy to release and you to I'm hesitating because it's like I don't want to say these like generic, they're not generic, but these things like raise your vibration. And it's like I want it to be very tangible because it is. And that is the art of surrendering. It's allowing life to show you, right? So in that moment, okay, you just take a deep breath. Can you get to a place where you know and trust that every single thing is happening for you? Okay. And I know that's a big one. And that's why I say it's simple, but I get that it's not always easy because when you're in the thick of it, it doesn't feel like it's happening for you. It feels really pretty crappy and it's tough and it sucks. And I completely understand that. And it's only in hindsight, right? It's only once you move past the situation that you can see, oh my gosh, if that situation allowed me to see something in a new way. That situation, taught me something about myself. That situation, right? And you can, if you're lucky and when you get really good at this, you can see how it was working for you and it wasn't happening to you. And I love this. Very quick side note. A couple of years ago, I got really into Gene Keys. If you're not familiar, pick up the book by Richard Rudd. It is So fascinating. I've done some little bits and pieces on it throughout my channel. And one of the very first gene keys that just like really resonated with me. This is not a kind of book that you read cover to cover. This is a kind of book that you open a page and trust that that's the exact page you're meant to read in that moment, right? And I love that kind of crap. I shouldn't say crap, but I love that stuff. And one of those, it's Gene Key 55, and I think it's called like the Dragonfly's Dream or something like that. I've always loved dragonflies. It just really spoke to me and really resonated with me. And this whole Gene Key is about letting go of being the victim of your own life. And once collective individually and then collectively more of us do that, like how that is kind of like the major shift that humanity will go through. And fascinatingly enough, ironically enough, I saw something just the other day that we are in that shift right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember reading that Gene Key and it talking about the very transformational time between 2025 and I believe it's 2027. I need to go back and reread the section, so please don't quote me and I apologize if I'm wrong. But it's just like this idea that collectively as humans, we are finally realizing that we aren't the victims of our own life, right? That we are transforming from wearing everything, right? It feeling so heavy to being like, I don't need to own that story anymore. I get to choose. Am I going to choose being a victim in my life or am I going to take responsibility? And again, I get things happen and I'm not saying this is not about like taking responsibility for bad things that happen, but it's about just allowing all of it. And even when it doesn't make sense and even when it's really hard, and again, sending so much love because I know we're all going through different things and it can feel really heavy at times. But to get back to this idea of surrender, it's can you have enough trust and faith that everything is working out for you, that everything is here, everything you are experiencing for your own growth and expansion. And sometimes we don't even know what that looks like, but we just trust and we just allow ourselves to be in it. And, simultaneously, what's happening with, a lot of major transits that are happening in astrology is, this, this and cycles ending and planets moving from Pisces into Aries. Aries is all about the self. Okay. And what I find so fascinating is as we are remembering, as we are waking up, as we are just starting to feel a different truth stirring inside of ourselves, we are remembering that we don't have to look outside of ourselves for the divine. We don't have to look outside of ourselves for someone to save us, for someone to come fix everything, right? That same energy, that same amount of wisdom and grace and love lives within each and every one of us. And we are remembering that individually and collectively. We are remembering that. And there is so much power, and we can't even begin to predict what will happen, what will shift, what will transform when humanity or a large amount of humanity wakes up to that truth and remembers who in the hell they really are and what they came here for. And that is exactly what the Gene Keys talk about. And that is also what this shift in our own consciousness is really, kind of like driving us towards. It's getting out of our own way a little bit. Things aren't happening to me. I'm able to see how this is happening for me so that I can connect to something much deeper. And sometimes things have to get really bad to surrender, right? Sometimes you hear about people like they hit rock bottom and that's finally when things can shift because they've surrendered, right? It's like you get to that point, and you don't have to get to that point, right? And that looks a little different even for all of us. But you get to that point where you say, you know what? This isn't working. It what I'm going through feels so heavy and so hard, and I know there has to be an easier way. And what if life was showing that to you, for you, so that that easier way that you're searching for actually comes from right here, from within? That is what we are being called to and invited to right now. And not everyone, because I see that there are a lot of people that are, far from that. But the beautiful thing is, the more people remember, the more people wake up, the more people reconnect to their own truth. When they surrender to the flow of life, it allows other people to do it as well. It paves a way for others to see a different path. Do not underestimate your energy. Do not underestimate what you're capable of. If you are feeling called to live life differently, if life is trying to show you something different, if life is trying to show you a different path, you must surrender to that. That is what is being called. Okay? So this kind of is leading me to my third point. And it's really about letting life show you, right? So it's one, it's like that awareness, right? That was the first piece I talked about. Breathing, moving energy, getting your headspace free of the problem that has been created, right? Getting yourself free from that, just being able to kind of like expand, bird's eye view, like kind of hawk spirit animal think here, right? A hawk, it sees it from above. Channel that within yourself. See, what am I meant to know, learn, etc., from whatever life is presenting you. Two, it's the idea of connection, right? We cannot surrender without connection. We cannot surrender without trust. Okay? Trust, connection, surrender. They are intertwined. Okay? They work in tandem simultaneously. So then this third piece is letting yourself be in the flow of life. And what does that freaking even mean when people talk about that, right? It's noticing like in an instant the trigger. And it's hard for me sometimes to like, even though when things happen, it's like they happen like this, like in a blink, in an instant, and then it's putting words to that is sometimes tricky for me. So I'm going to do my best here. But when and was my experience. I had a really beautiful experience last week where something triggered me. And then I saw the trigger, right? I didn't, it might be, I mean, this has happened to me before, but it was like, I'm no longer getting stuck in the trigger. Does that make sense? It's like you feel the trigger, you see it, but it's not yours. And that might be the best way to describe it. It's like I literally for a hot second was like felt something welling up, and then I got it. Then I saw the message. I understood why life was presenting this thing to me, and I started laughing. And it was like so light. I was like, oh my gosh, I get it now, right? Like, and who knows, maybe it'll, because it's all a spiral and maybe it'll work back around. But it was beautiful because I got it. I was just like, that's why this is here. That's why this is happening. I see it now. Thank you, right? And then with that, we can be in gratitude. And I don't mean like, we have to write out what we're grateful for and kind of this like old view of gratitude, but it's like an embodiment of gratitude. Like, oh, gosh, thanks for showing that to me. Thanks for allowing that opportunity for growth and expansion, right? Thanks for presenting that trigger to me, right? And even if you can be in that moment of, gosh, this life is really showing me everything I need at exactly the time that I need it, right? That is how you surrender, because then you're not attached to anything. You're not like, oh, what if it doesn't work out this way? There have been so many things that have not worked out the way that I expected them this past year. So many things that I tried to do, so many things that I tried to create. And when I look back, they were exactly as they were meant to be because they allowed for a new level of insight. They allowed for a greater understanding. They allowed me to see something differently. They allowed me to come closer to what my truth is and be more in alignment than ever before. Okay. But you see, if I would have gotten stuck in, oh, this hasn't worked out, and I'm just pushing and I'm just trying to make it work and trying to figure it out and holding so tightly to the control of what I think needs to happen, if I did that, I wouldn't be able to allow for life to do what it needs to do to present the things that need to be presented to me for my own growth, for my own expansion. And only through that expansion can we come more into alignment. Can we be more deeply connected to the truth of who we are? Can we move forward and live in a way that feels so much more aligned? I'm going to be completely honest, but you don't know always what's best for you, right? But we think we do, and it feels safe to pretend like we do. But when you allow yourself to just let life show you, things get really fun. And it opens yourself up to new possibilities and new outcomes that are better than you ever could have imagined. And isn't that what we all want? So take some time and just reflect on, where are you trying to control, right? Where are you stuck in your own stories? Where are you stuck in your own triggers, right? If there's a lot of energy, mental energy, emotional energy that you're putting towards something, take a step back, right? Take that bird's eye view and say, what do I need to see here? I recently was dealing with like some periocular, like dermatitis, and I've had a flare up before, and I had one, recently over the past few months, and it's finally like, I think almost completely cleared after a couple of weeks. And one of the things I said, because so much of our physical healing has to do with our like emotional, energetic, mental healing as well. And because it was happening around my eyes, I remember at one point being like, just show me what I need to see, right? And I said that because it was around my eyes and I just could not get this to heal. It was driving me crazy. And then within the past few weeks, again, I've had all these epiphanies and like just crazy things going on that have just been such a release and a relief, and just felt so good and have felt so healing. And simultaneously also, my physical eyes have healed as well, which has been really beautiful and amazing. And sometimes same thing, like sometimes my heart will feel really heavy, and I had the most beautiful epiphany the other day that like maybe it's not the overwhelm, right? Maybe it's not the worry or the anxiety. Maybe it's simply your heart saying, just come back to me. Just come back to me. And that is such a beautiful way to surrender. And it gets to be that easy, right? Come back to me. Breathe, connect, slow down. Let me show you what you need to see. Let me show you the way, right? And just sit with that. And then you get the insight, and then you act. And then you're triggered, and you allow for whatever needs to be revealed and unraveled in that moment, and you have a good laugh and you shake it off, and then you act, right? And you're inspired, and like that's just the flow of life, right? And we just know that it's all a reflection of whatever it is we're going through internally, and it's all here to help us remember the truth of who we are and what we came here for and what we are capable of. And I really hope that there is even a part of this message that resonates with you enough to inspire you to try this on for yourself. Please never take my word for it, okay? This is about your own embodiment and about you saying, oh my gosh, I have been holding on, I don't know, to X, Y, and Z things for the past 5 years, right? For the past 3 months, for the past whatever. Is it time to let that go? Right? We can't just say, I'm going to let it go. Sometimes that works. Again, it depends. This is not like always a one size fits all thing. But typically, when you're holding on to something and there's like an energetic connection to the thing you're holding on to, and it feels tight or heavy, or it's just presenting itself, right? I've talked before about trusting whatever is being presented. There's wisdom in that. There's a reason why, right? It's coming up so you can work through it and let it go. And we let it go through the surrender process, right? It's kind of like a dance. It's like we can't fully let go without the surrender, and we can't fully surrender without doing the work to let it go. And that's just part of the flow of life in general. So, what are you holding on to? What feels heavy right now? What are you, right? It's like just what is coming up in your world? And can you dance with it? Are you willing to dance with it? Are you willing to take a breath and say, I'm going to take a step and see what else, wants to move with me? And really, that is going to be a game changer for how your life feels and what you're able to experience and what you're able to create, and just the levels of joy and ease and magic that comes with that. So, again, sending you so much love. Thank you for being here with me. And I'd love to hear from you. If any of this resonates, if you try some of this on, if something finally, even jolts something loose for you that you can finally release and surrender to life a little more deeply. All right, until next time, I'll see you then. Take care.